Ready.
You're listening to the Paracasual Destiny Podcast. Thanks for tuning in to episode 19 of the Paracasual Destiny Podcast. I'm Soultime. I'm joined by Sallybug. Sallybug, can you hear me?
I'm here.
I'm also joined by Green Stego. Stego, are you there?
Hello. Good morning.
Sounding good today, Stego. And Romance Girl, can you hear me?
Hello. Can hear you loud and clear.
And I'm excited to introduce a new addition to our panel today, the famous Funnybone. You may have seen him in chat. Funnybone, can you hear me?
Roger.
He's coming through loud and clear. So this is exciting. We've got a huge panel, a growing panel. Hopefully we can get a few more people in here over the years. And a lot to talk about today. In particular, what has everybody been doing? We'll start off with Romance Girl. Did you do any Destiny this week or since we last talked?
Yeah, we did a little Destiny, I think a little bit throughout the week, but we also did some last night and a little bit this morning.
Nice.
Just kind of chugging along in the post-campaign Europa quest. We just got the Stasis grenade launcher.
Nice.
We being Green Stego.
Green Stego and you guys usually play together. I have a question for you guys, for you and Green Stego. Is it just me, or does it seem like Beyond Light, I can't tell where the campaign ends? It seems to have splintered into 4 different activities for me.
Yes, I was looking at my list of quests and trying to just mentally map where each quest line was. And it's like, okay, I have the Varix upgrade quests. I have the quests from the Crow, the Wrathborn hunt.
Yeah.
And we have the Beyond, or the something Beyond Darkness or something with the Exo Stranger.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot. It just splintered into these different areas. Kind of cool.
I was going to say, and this usually happens when a first DLC drops, but I am in official overwhelmed mode. Completely overwhelmed. A little bit not sure which one to follow. You and I actually talked about it on the way into work about what should we focus on? Should we focus on the Wrathborn because that's seasonal and it's going away, or should we focus on, like, I haven't even finished unlocking. Well,
you get to choose. It's not linear. I think they want you to just kind of decide what you're most interested in. For me, I'm most interested in unlocking Stasis all the way.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's kind of where I am. I want to at least get my Stasis all the way opened. Like they're talking about, and we'll get into it as we go over the TWA, but they talked about nerfing a grenade that I haven't even unlocked yet.
Funnybone, what have you been up to? Have you played any Destiny since last week?
I did. I actually finished the main campaign last night.
Oh, cool.
So I was very excited about that. I got sidetracked.
Is that killing Aramis? Does that constitute finishing the...
That's what I would classify it as.
All right.
And I'm in the same boat, actually freshly in the same boat as what y'all were just saying, where, I finished that fight with Aramis, and then I got all the quests lining up, and I'm sort of deciding what to do next.
Nice.
But I did. I just gotta say, before I finished that quest, I was on my way there, and I organically discovered a lost sector. And I just love the lost sectors on Europa.
They are cool. Me too. I really do.
Yeah, they've definitely designed them to be just very replayable. Like, it doesn't feel like, for me yet, a chore going through them.
And I love that they have kind of made them, they've opened up that legendary lost sector, so they're adding, not that it would be anything that I would probably be able to do, or maybe as endgame
I mean,
for me.
I'm sure you did some with Season of the Worthy.
Right.
When they had the EDZ.
I remember when those came out, and definitely when I tried them at the very beginning of the season, I did not have much luck and did not enjoy it. But I can see how other people have like burned through the content and have already gotten up to a high light level. It's given them some end game and some things to chase. So I feel like they've got a really nice balance right now of giving the casual players almost an overwhelming amount of content, but also having endgame content for those other people who are just pushing through.
One last note on that.
Also, yeah.
Oh, Dan.
Oh, just gonna say also for the solo players, a little extra incentive, because they've tried to push doing like dungeons solo, but the incentives for that, the rewards, haven't been where they're at right now. It hasn't been like get the new exotic, get a chance for the new exotic. I think that's a really good. I think it's a really good idea, Bungie. Good job.
Also, how they tied the lore into these lost sectors was so cool. It just made it. I don't know, doing it alongside with the story, it just felt so, it was so satisfying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the comments I'm hearing this morning from you guys are reflective of, I don't go into Reddit, but I listen to a couple podcasts, and I watch YouTube content and some Twitch content, and so I'm getting Reddit indirectly from those sources, and it seems like the consensus is the narrative is just the best it's ever been, and the way what you just said, Funnybone, with it just being weaved into all aspects and all activities, and we're going to get into in our Touch of Grimoire today. Sally Bug's going to explore yet another little integration into what we're doing, not just in Beyond Light, but more specifically Season of the Hunt with our buddy the Crow. And I got to say, the highlight this week for me was once again playing with C3PO. It's our granddaughter, and she wanted to play Gambit, and she would not let us stop playing with her until we won a game, and we were like exhausted. We
took like 5 tries.
And she was just so cute. She kept running through that portal as soon as it would open. And then when the heavy would come up, I'd go to get it, and she's right there stealing it from me. But one of the coolest things about playing with her this past time was I noticed she's gotten to know the game well enough now and gotten to that point. And there's something about Destiny that brings out the inner game developer in everyone. And she starts making suggestions like, what if they did this instead? And I'm like, man, oh man, she's going to be ready for this podcast soon. But that was a highlight of my week, playing that, and also unlocking the Wrathborn hunts, which is the season-specific content, which I haven't done yet, but I definitely... It was actually a pain in the butt to be in the middle of a Gambit match, and I had achieved a fully charged lure. That's the artifact you get in the Season of the Hunt. And for those of you who haven't done it yet, anyway, it charged up, and then they have this splash screen, so I can't see what I'm doing, and it's a tutorial telling me to go in and do this, and so I had to go into the little cave area in the I think it's the Fallen one. I forget which map it is. Anyway, I went into the little cave area. I'm getting killed while I'm doing it. And Sally Bug, you had to do the same thing because
it happened to me as well.
Yeah.
It was frustrating. It's like, why couldn't they do that like after you finished the actual
Yeah, it was a bit of a pain, but
I'm
looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to doing that, doing a Wrathborn hunt.
Yeah, we thought about doing it last night, but our energy level was just a little too low to.
Mm-hmm. But the overall thing, there's a lot of belly aching going on about the loot pool and the way they're sunsetting. I guess seems for a lot of players a lot harsher than they were led to believe it would be. And a lot of praise with the story and the narrative, and overall people love Beyond Light, I think, and I think it's
the way I see it is
it's a big success.
And I agree. I'm glad that it's overall positive. The way I see it about the sunsetting is, and other content creators have pointed this out, is that Beyond Light was instead of Destiny 3.
Mm-hmm.
Right. You know, this is a continuation of Destiny 2. But it's in lieu of Destiny 3. And if we were going to go into Destiny 3, it would have been like the transition from Destiny 1 to Destiny 2, where they said all your loot is gone. It's staying in Destiny 1, and you're starting from scratch. And that's really similar in a similar place where we are now, where it's like the loot is going to feel scarce at first because they're building from scratch again. It's a new beginning. So we kind of have to, I mean, I'm glad that they also are responding to that feedback so quickly as they went over in the TWAB. But
I have to say, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think that the loot for me, from a casual perspective, has been it's been a steady flow, especially if you are willing to use a few glue weapons.
Right. Mm-hmm. I've had no problems myself. Like I have fun, you know, when I do this every time I'm in the leveling thing. I just put on whatever weapon is the highest light and just use that and enjoy it for a period of time. What I was going to say though is it is interesting. I feel like this is the first time I've seen Bungie respond
my goodness,
quickly,
very
to
quick
feedback. Like there's
across the spectrum too.
Yeah,
amazing. It's amazing.
They knew there was going to be bugs, and it's almost like they just had their team at the ready for when things started to crop up. And it's like, okay, this cropped up. What are we going to do about it? And then responded like within days, like 2 or 3 days.
What they said they would be able to do with this new system they were putting in. It's not a new engine, but it was like a update to the current engine.
Right.
And the stuff they did with the server as well. I
guess we had to see it to believe it. Yeah, because this was
unbelievable.
Their fastest response.
I mean, we were biting our nails like, oh, they're not going to be able to do world's first by Saturday with the Warlock super broken like it is, and they fixed it. They came out with an update and fixed that, and tweaked stasis for the Crucible. It's amazing.
Yeah, Witherhorde is back already.
Yeah,
Witherhorde's back already. It's just,
let's admit it. We were all worried. We were all worried when they were disabling everything left and right. You know, you'd wake up the next day. Oh, this is disabled. Oh no. And then they fixed pretty much all of it, like all the major things anyway. That was so impressive. That was super impressive.
So impressive.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree.
Shout out to the team over there. They're really hitting it, doing well. Yeah. They're doing well so far with that.
So we're seeing kind of firsthand how these updates, that these like behind the scenes updates really have helped them be able to be on top of those.
I will say Beyond Light and Europa in general also just feels like a next gen game.
Oh, absolutely.
Even though I'm not playing it on a next gen system.
Has anybody noticed that the load times are a little snappier too?
Oh, they're so much faster. C3PO was talking about that. She was so excited.
It's really nice. I want to play Destiny again like I haven't in the past. So
it's actually a little bit like to the point.
It's too fast.
There's no such thing as too fast. No.
Because
you're used to all your breaks that you take while it's loading.
You're used to like deleting stuff. stuff.
Yeah.
Not only that, I used to like have those transition times be the time that I would like stand up and just like move around a little bit just to get myself like not being sitting on the couch. And it's like, man, I'm like sitting back down. I've barely got a chance to get up and walk around.
I'm loading into a control match. I guess I'll go feed the cats. You can't do that anymore.
Right, now you get back and you're booted out.
Oh man, well that's cool. Should we?
I wanted to ask Funnybone if the Xbox Series X has arrived yet, because I'd like to hear.
Yes.
It has not, unfortunately. Okay. I think Microsoft is just completely backlogged. But my order is still pending, so I'm in the queue.
Mm-hmm.
I keep looking at. I check pretty much every day on whether they're available, and they are not.
You and many other people.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
I think
F5 City.
I think it's a logistics thing. I bet they're getting shipments by the thousands daily, and it's just where my spot in queue is.
Where people are in the queue.
Yeah, because I know that all the time, just randomly, Walmart will be like, we have more PS5s, and then they'll sell out. And so I think it's what Gideon said. It's just they're shipping them out, but they're just selling them out. So
shipping out and selling out almost immediately. That's cool. I'm sure they're doing the best they can to try to be available for the Christmas season, because there are going to be parents looking to get that, and the Black Friday is probably still a thing, sort of, anyway.
Well, that was one of my primary motivations. I was thinking, if I can't secure one in the next day or two, probably won't be able to get one until Q1 next year.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that, for me, that's okay, because I wasn't actually thinking of getting one immediately anyway, but now
I won't need one.
Around the internet, though, it is very nice playing Destiny on the new system.
Well, I bet 60 FPS is going to look like butter for us. It's going to be amazing for us. 30 FPS for 6 years now, right?
Yeah, they are really encroaching on that gap between the PC and the consoles with this new generation.
Yeah, I was having this discussion with one of my students yesterday about how Microsoft does seem to have this sort of advantage in that they own Windows and the Xbox, and I think it's going cross-platform, but I think Sony's going to have to get in on that to compete and be. So I think in the future, next 3 or 4 years, we're going to see cross-platform multiplayer games, which is good. That'll be fun. So should we transition on over to the TWAB, so to speak?
Let's do it.
Let's see what the TWAB looks like this week at Bungie. Let's call it up, and the first thing they say is, welcome to the TWAB of Beyond Light. The Crow has found a new nest. Got a bit to cover today, so we won't spend too much time on introductions. And they kick off with the Emolant. I don't know how to pronounce that. Emolant, Part 1 and Part 2. The Emolant Part 1 and Part 2.
Can I interrupt you here?
No.
Has anyone read the Emolant?
Yes, I read it in full, Part 1 and Part 2.
Oh no.
Fantastic.
It's so devastating.
Have it.
Is it lore?
It's lore.
It's web lore.
They're just knocking it out of the park. Their storyline and the telling the story.
They're firing on all cylinders.
It's devastating, and it's heartbreaking and emotional, and it's so engaging.
I have not read it yet.
The only complaint is that they weren't able to make a full cinematic for it, but they came pretty close with the writing.
Yeah. Who was telling me? Sallybug, was that you telling me that you can get a little bit of dialogue after you unlock the Wrathborn hunts?
Yes, you can get a little bit of almost like I feel like maybe a synopsis of what happened in the story if you go down into Zavala's office and interact with the console.
Yeah. So
I have not done it myself, but that was in, I think, Twitter. I got
and then after
she read it on the internet, so it must be true.
I read
that's
it
gotta
on
be
the
true.
internet. Yep. So
then there's another lore. Boy, they are proud of their lore, as well they should be. They have a link to 2 Drink Minimum, which, as it happens, I believe will be featured today on Sallybug's Little Touch of Grimoire later on. Correct?
Yep. Yes.
Awesome. So the Wrathborn hunts have begun. The Deepstone Crypt raid launches today. So after this podcast, we've got to do some adulting and get in as much as we can before we come back in and watch Dado be world's first. Dado's going to be the world's first this year.
I don't know about that. We'll see.
He's been working really
He's
hard.
always a bridesmaid. We'll see.
Oh, he's married now, so...
He's married now. He's not...
Yeah.
That totally makes a difference. That's actually more of a distraction, actually.
I don't think so. Now he has somebody that can bring him food while he's raiding, so...
Oh my God.
Be streaming
How
at
do
the
you know
same time.
she's not going to be raiding?
Yeah, she might be actually on his raid team for all we know.
Richard O'Neill in the chat says Redeem is going to take it, and I believe that it would not be their first title if they were to take it.
Is that baloney or... Maybe
he's biased towards the UK raid teams.
No, it's not.
I don't think
UK
Redeem
raid
is.
team.
Oh,
They're
there are some
American.
UK folks on Redeem. I just don't know if they're going to be on the raid team.
Actually, I think it's an international clan.
Okay.
Redeem is that Glad's?
That is.
Is that Glad's?
That's
Yeah.
Glad's.
It is, and they do have a very good shot at winning again.
Are there betting odds?
I would say Richard O'Neill.
I'm thinking
is
Richard
not
O'Neill.
Out of line.
I think Richard O'Neill is probably thinking about betting. Do you think he's got some? Do you think there's some wager going on over there?
Put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Redeem. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's not out of line with that.
It's kind of like they're the New York Yankees, right?
Yes.
I don't know if the New York Yankees are still good, but
no, they're not. So.
Well, it's kind of like the New York Yankees from the '90s and 2000s, the early aughts.
No, Redeem is definitely one of the top contenders. There's no doubt about it. So, yeah. Anyway, this week at Bungie.
For me, and of course, I am pulling for Dado because he hasn't had one yet. But I'm also pulling for like an unknown. Like I'm just hoping that like an Aztec Cross or some other.
Well, Aztec Cross wouldn't be an unknown, though he is.
Well, no, he's not an unknown, but he's he's never had a raid team where.
It'd be fun if a completely unknown little clan, from
Minions of Mortimer, maybe.
Well, I'm at 217. I'm at
to compete.
2017. So, what do you have to be? 2030? I'm sorry, 1200. 1200. Yeah, I'm at 1213. You have to be at 1230, right?
1230 to reap the maximum benefits by the time you scale up to the final encounter.
Well, and they also they don't count your artifact either, so we're probably even lower.
I think you need to be 1250 with artifact power, so that you're 1230 without.
Yeah,
basically, yeah.
Right.
Also,
but the cap is at 1230, so you can't actually. It doesn't matter if you're higher.
Yes.
I'm playing in the background. I don't have the sound up, but I'm playing the world's first trailer.
Yeah.
My favorite part of that was the cat butt in the face, for sure.
Yeah, that was funny.
Most
That was
relatable.
great.
That was awesome. World first verification timeline. Oh, it's gonna be fun. Might have to make some popcorn for this one.
Absolutely.
They don't want you to call it a belt. What was this? Bungie tweeted out something yesterday. This is just neither here nor there, but they said something about welcoming all the new light players. And somebody tweeted back, Bungie, please refer to new light players as kindergartens from now on. Which is very apt. Securing the entrance. Oh, they're talking a little bit about their security measures. They're letting people know that they are trying their best to thwart cheating, both in PvE and PvP.
SMS verification now with PC players.
Yeah,
I think that'll cut down the cheaters by a huge portion.
Well, they said it did
I
really.
think so,
It
too.
helped with Call of Duty. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping for the best because that really does ruin everything. Tuning the darkness. Oh, so here's where they get into the changes. And again, I can't really relate to these. I wish Richard O'Neill would come into voice chat one of these days and let us know what's going on in the game because he's probably...
What is this game, Richard?
Yeah, because he plays a lot more than we do, and we're always like lagging 2 or 3 weeks behind him and his posse over there
Right,
across
because
the
they talk
pond.
about changes, and we're like, changes? What are they talking about?
What changes? I haven't even gotten that grenade yet. So we don't know what the heck they're talking about half the time. But no, we do by proxy because we do listen to the content creators and what they're talking about. So stasis changes here. Stasis breakout edge. Everything's been nerfed for the Warlock, it looks like. Stasis Warlock melee, speed reduced. Range reduced. The Winter Wrath Super, duration reduced. And not just a little bit, not a tweak. You know, these are not light changes. 30 seconds to 24 seconds. I'm thinking, wow, that's going to make some difference. The light attack, the cost is reduced. So that's actually a little buff right here. So they do a little bit of a, cost reduction, but hardly any.
A tiny buff.
Yeah, a tiny buff.
And a huge nerf.
Maybe they said, can we put something in so they don't cry too long?
0.5%.
I know.
I approve.
And then there's the Cold Snap Seeker speed reduced by 23%. Yeah, I don't have that, so I wouldn't be able to notice
So
that.
I haven't done my Warlock stasis at all. So all of this, I'm just basically like, okay, it was always like this.
Well,
I'm
somebody
just pretend.
Yeah.
I'm not missing out on anything.
So I actually went into that fight with Aramis right after these nerfs kicked in, and it was definitely noticeable, at least on PvE.
Were you solo?
I was solo.
And you were able to beat Aramis after these nerfs?
Yes. I mean, they weren't so bad that you can't compete, at least in PvE, but they were definitely noticeable.
Did you
compared to like the earlier quests before the nerfs when I was using stasis?
What power were you when you got to Aramis?
1206, 1207.
Wow, so
That's pretty high power.
That must have been fun. It must have been challenging, I'm thinking.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I mean, I really loved it.
Cool. That was stasis changes against Guardians. What does that mean? PvP?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Cold Snap Freeze duration lowered. 4.75 seconds to 1.35. That's not a light touch there. That's heavy-handed, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
There was a
that
large
needed to
outcry
happen.
for these changes, though. I don't think anyone is upset about the PvP changes, including Warlocks.
Yeah.
Right, I was watching the
freeze
clips on Reddit.
duration was just too. I mean, think about it. 4 seconds is like a
That's an
huge amount of
It was
time.
just, that might
You're
as well have
done.
been
You're done.
dead.
Right,
Yeah,
it's
you're
an
dead.
instant kill.
Right, exactly. It's instant kill. So
honestly, 1.35 seconds is still you're pretty much dead.
Right. I mean, there aren't guns that definitely can kill you, like if you get all the criticals in that amount of time.
Oh yeah,
way
0.7
faster.
TTK.
So it's still like it's a nerf, but it's still gonna it's still gonna put you at an advantage for sure.
Right. Penumbral blast, freeze duration lowered.
They had to nerf.
Oh, go ahead, Stego.
They had to nerf Void Walker, right, for the Nova Warp. I think that
yes,
somebody in the design team tends to get a little carried away with the roaming supers.
They give an explanation. They said they'd rather ship it hot than cold.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
And I think that's a good explanation. I think that's fair.
And I doubt that that it feels weak after a nerf. I don't ever feel like underpowered. I still feel like a super powerful defender of the universe.
It's easier to scale back than to scale up.
And I heard somebody say better for them to do all this now before everybody masterworks and gets their build with the Warlock way up, and spends all that currency and investment in it. So better to rip the Band-Aid off now than a month from now, right? So
I think good timing on the nerf.
I'm just amazed at how quickly Bungie's able to do all this stuff. The heavy attack no longer affects players who are not encased. So these were big complaints I remember hearing about in PvP. All that said, we believe strongly in the Cosmic Ice Wizard fantasy and PvE, so we're trying to target changes, and they are doing things differently in PvE versus PvP, which they've shown they can do that, and I think that's appropriate for I know they don't like to do it, but I think it's appropriate here to try to separate how things work in both environments. What else do we have? They talk about the loot thing, and they're addressing people's concerns that they sunset all the old stuff. It is definitely nerfed. Your 1050 stuff is nerfed in playlist strikes, is my understanding.
Well, they said that was a mistake.
Oh, okay.
They're going to fix that for the November 24th update, I believe. They're going to bring strikes back down to 1050. They didn't mean to do that.
Okay, well that's good news. I didn't catch that from this. I just glanced over it, but a list of adjustments to the World Loot Legendary Weapons pool you'll see with our November 24th hotfix, which you just mentioned. Remove all legendary weapons that hit their infusion cap at the end of this season. Thank you. I like that. Add all of the 7th Seraph weapons from Season 10. Very good. That's going to contribute to the pool. Now, does that mean that the 7th Seraph weapons will come in with an updated cap?
Yeah, I think so.
Nice. Okay.
I would assume so because they got capped out before.
Yeah.
Yeah, they reached their infusion cap at the end of the season.
Is that's not going to grandfather old weapons though? It'll just be for fresh.
No, it doesn't, unfortunately, and I hate that personally. Especially if I masterworked it. It's like at least give me my materials back or something.
I do like the fact though that they have taken
some materials back from dismantling.
Some.
I think it's a fine way to keep. I don't have any complaints about them making me re-earn old loot if I want to use it in a competitive way.
Right.
I say, in all honesty, I'd rather have that happen and say, okay, yeah, we're going to bring back some of your favorites that you can dabble with, but I'd rather put my focus on the new stuff and give it a go and try it.
I hear you, but my problem with it is it takes me so long to get to the point to where I finally get a decent roll that I can then masterwork, and both of those things take me to a point where this bothers me that I can't use my old bad omens that I got a great tracking and masterworked, and now.
But it's going to be good for a year. You can put
Well,
those.
what I'm saying is, it takes me a year to get to that point.
Weapons
because I don't play enough.
They have made enhancement cores easier to get. So
that's true. Okay, that is true.
True.
That is true. So we'll see how it goes. And it's not like a big complaint of mine, but it annoys me a little bit. At all of the season.
But I feel like it was a definitely a smart move to get the weapons that are sunsetting after this season out of that loot pool.
Definitely,
that just doesn't make sense.
That is a thank you very much.
Would get those in a drop and then find them be obsolete in just 2 or 3
Yeah, that's
months.
ridiculous, right?
Stego, do you wanna? What are you talking about in chat with the? You don't think that they will extend?
No, I don't think that they're going to extend the power level on those 7th Seraph weapons.
Why not?
You think there's what is their cap right now? Is it 1410?
End of next season.
End of next season.
Yeah.
Yeah, then if that's the case, then they probably won't.
1410 was only the new Beyond
Yeah,
Light
1410's like the highest cap that you can
so
get.
It's not 1410.
No, it's
more
1310?
1310 or
1360
or 1310 or 1360.
1360.
I could open up DIM here and check, but 10th season. Yeah, I'm just.
I guess we'll have to wait and see.
1310.
13.
So
1310.
We get to enjoy them for a little while. Yeah, I don't know how this sunsetting's. I'm still a little skeptical, but jury's still out. We have to wait. I have to play it some more and just go through it. All of the season 11 seasonal and planetary reprisal weapons. They're adding them. Okay, yeah, they're adding these. What are planetary reprisal weapons? Does anybody know what that means?
I was asking you that.
Richard
earlier.
O'Neill, if you're still in chat, what is a planetary reprisal weapon?
I want to say it was like weapons you could get on each planet, and then on last season, season 11, they made those available through the Prismatic Recaster.
Oh, okay.
I'm not 100% sure, and I can't think of an example right now.
Okay. Planetary reprisal. All right. Anyway, we'll have to ask Dado. Weight drop chances. So the newer an item is, the more likely it is to drop. So you get your arsenal up quickly. That's good.
This is my favorite change.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine too. Absolutely.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Because it's exactly what I was saying before. I'd rather put my focus on the new stuff and
right.
give it a go and see if I like it. And
I used to
move on. I want to evolve. I don't want to just constantly keep going back to that same old. And I've been doing that. I noticed when I'm watching other people, they're still pulling out the falling guillotine, and I was like, I don't want to use that weapon anymore. I used it so much last season. I'm ready to move on.
Yeah,
right.
I just want to move on.
Saying I think 25 weapons are in the loot pool right now, and for me, I'm like, that seems like a good number to start with, and then slowly build from there. That's because of the amount I play.
Right.
I don't know if I could keep track of more than.
Right. Us casuals, this is I don't think I've even discovered all of those 25 yet. For sure I haven't. And so for me it's like a perfect amount of loot, but I can see how for someone who plays a lot. But again, we're the Paracasual Destiny podcast. We're talking about from a casual's point of view. We didn't need this change at all.
I do agree, and it's not like that's the only loot that's in the game. There's still loot in the raids. So it's not like there's only 25.
We probably won't do until next season because we usually don't dabble
I do agree
in that for a while.
With the point that there should be blue rarity bows and machine guns.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
that's actually something I was, and this was the only thing that I've been disturbed by is that part of the way I level up and do the content is I'll go down and I'll get the gunsmith bounties or I'll get the vanguard bounties or gambit bounties if I'm going to do those activities, and they give me bounties that say get kills with machine guns or get kills with auto rifles, and I don't have any of those that are viable right now in higher level content. Like in a strike, you have to have 1100.
Yeah, again, that was a mistake.
That was a mistake, right?
Right. But it would be nice to have some new choices.
But even the stuff like blue power.
Sure.
And
sure.
guns.
Exactly.
Right. Exactly. So not deleting those because you kind of need them.
Right. But auto rifles, I haven't had a problem finding. I have plenty of blue auto rifles that I've been keeping. Like if it's 1200 or above, I'm like, I'll keep that until I get, so that I can throw it on if I have an auto rifle bounty.
Right. And machine gun as well. I've had that happen with machine gun, like, because I don't have any of the 1050 machine guns. You could get them. I guess I could.
A 1050 machine gun. I did get that one, and I put on my old 1050 machine gun, but had higher power, everything else. And as long as you're staying in patrol, you can't go into like higher level activities that way. But
you
can still get them in patrol on Europa.
Yeah.
So there are ways around it, but again, we're nitpicking at this point.
Yeah. And if you're a season pass owner, you can at least backfill with armor because all the vendors are +0 now, which is, they definitely have a plan. And like they say at the end of this, while we're not ready to dive into the long-term strategy yet, we're listening to the feedback and watching how the player build landscape evolves over these first few weeks and beyond light, and incorporating that feedback as we plan our future seasons. So that's hopeful for sure. And nothing's so broken that I don't want to get back on the game right now and play. So the next section is bashing some bugs, and they're just showing all the stuff.
They're just flexing.
They're flexing all the stuff that they're fixing, and they're talking about issues and the known issues, which I don't really feel like going through, to be honest with you.
Let's just ignore the issues and focus on the good
we
stuff.
don't like issues.
Yeah. Some beautiful art coming out.
Wow. Great job to the community artists.
Oh my goodness, the talent pool in this community is just crazy.
Pretty amazing. Yeah.
And there will not be a TWAB next Thursday because of Thanksgiving. As an heads up.
Heads up, so don't get your hopes up.
We may not have it. Are we going to have a podcast?
Maybe we'll skip a weekend. I don't know.
Maybe
the people are counting on it.
There might be an outcry.
We could do a special edition.
They celebrate Thanksgiving in the UK.
Yeah.
Our two extra fans outside of the people who are actually in this podcast right now will be demanding it from us.
Yeah, for sure. So is it time for a coffee break is my question.
Well, we don't have any more coffee, but other people might need to.
Do you guys need a coffee break?
The words you want to hear.
No, it's not. Does anybody else need a little bit of a coffee break?
Java boost?
A little Java boost?
I'll take a sip of coffee. Oh, this coffee has been refilled.
Nice.
Thank you, Daniel. I did not notice it.
Funnybone, have you got coffee with you, or have you already had your coffee?
I do have coffee with me.
You want to talk about what you're drinking? What is it?
This is the New Englander Special. It's just a large coffee from Dunkin' Donuts with an espresso shot in it.
Is there any cream and sugar?
I ordered it black, and I put my own cream in at home because their standard ratios don't do it for me.
Or way too high.
Bad.
You can say
New
it.
Englanders like a little bit of coffee and a cup of cream. Is basically
I guess we can say goodbye to that Starbucks sponsorship we were eyeing.
Oh my gosh.
We cut ties with them when they refused to make a stasis frappuccino.
In product testing, the blue food dye didn't go over well.
So, full disclosure, I believe I'm sipping iced Starbucks espresso roast.
Does it have any kind of dairy product in it?
Just a little bit of unsweetened coconut creamer.
And that is Cafe Olay, brought to you by HEB. Espresso.
Oh, it's Cafe
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Full disclosure, the only reason I asked Romance Girl if there were dairy product in it is I wanted to play the cow sound effect again. So, yeah.
I usually go with the unsweetened coconut creamer because our local HEB half and half had corn syrup in it.
Ew.
Oh.
Hello.
It was like,
weird.
No, thank you.
I don't need that in my fat-free half and half. So I guess I'll just switch to this delicious unsweetened coconut creamer.
Yeah.
Right. I just went back to just doing a splash of just your regular old-fashioned half and half.
Well, that's the thing too, is I put like less than a tablespoon most of the time.
Right.
Just a splash.
To just ease a little bit of the acidity from it.
But
we're
Green Stego
drinking a
drinks it
nice
black.
blend. We just finished a blend called Foggy Morning, which was so nice. That was a really nice blend.
Smooth.
And, I think this one's a bistro blend with a little bit of that butter rum flavored coffee. Trying to get a little more festive.
Getting into the holidays.
Seasonal.
Seasonal.
I think the holiday season is going to come a little early this year, and the reason I say that is because it's 2020. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. I need some comfort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna put up our Christmas decorations this Thanksgiving break.
Yeah,
That's
probably
exactly
later today.
What we're
Probably
doing
today,
as well.
actually. We already started pulling them out.
Yeah.
It's coming up early this year.
Christmas decorations are coming out of the attic early this year.
Let's face it, it needs to.
It needs to
happen.
Yeah,
we need a festival of lights.
Yeah.
Of sorts.
We do.
A festival of mental health rejuvenation, for sure. And Beyond Light is contributing greatly to my mental health these days. I come home and look forward to playing it, honestly, as a stress reliever. So it's very good. Well done, Bungie.
Thank you, Bungie.
Are we ready? Are we ready
Thanks,
for
Bungie.
our next segment, Sally Bug? Which would be
Let's do it.
Which would be brought to you by the Paracasual Destiny podcast. It's A Touch of Grimoire with Sally Bug. Sally Bug, take it away.
So, outside of the Immolant, which we talked about a little bit, that Bungie dropped, they also dropped another piece of lore called 2 Drink Minimum. And I'm not going to read the whole 2 Drink Minimum unless somebody else wants to drink it. Read it.
Drink it down.
Drink it down.
Wait,
If
who's
someone else
like
wants
a
to?
fallen beverage? A Lixney beverage.
So sometimes Stego likes to read the lore, so if he wants to read
Are you asking me to read it? I'll read it.
Do
Yeah,
you
read
want
it if
to
you're
read
asking.
Now would be a good time to say, anytime there's a bunch of after you finish a quest and they give you like a wall of dialogue, Daniel and I, or Green Stego and I, do take turns reading it out to each other using the voices.
Oh, I was doing that with my daughter, and she loved it. She loved me doing the Zavala impression.
Yeah. We
Nice.
definitely it takes us a moment to actually sink in what the dialogue is saying, and it's fun doing the voices.
Wow.
I'm not particularly good at the voices, but it is fun doing them nonetheless.
Neither of us are good at the voices.
That's what makes it so good.
Well, give it a shot. I want to hear your best elixir.
Oh my gosh, there's a Lixney in here. No, we don't do a Lixney.
They have very high-pitched voices.
At the end.
Yeah, you just got to get the click down. The Varix click.
They're very varied. There's Varix, sounds very different from Spider, sounds different from Aramis.
All right, are you going to read the lore? No, maybe you're just buying time.
Well, I think the captain
feel like you're
has a
stalling
very
at this
high-pitched voice.
2 drink minimum. The crowded room fell uncomfortably silent. The Elixni server placed a metal cup of liquid on the table as though issuing a challenge. Crow raised the drink and sniffed at it. If it was poisoned, it was mild. He took a swig, grimaced at the bitterness, then took another. Across the room, the big Elixni captain slowly brought his lower arms up to rest on the table, leaving his weapons holstered. He chucked in approval. He clucked in approval, and the tension drained from the room. The Elixni who brought the drink scuttled back behind the bar, and soon the air filled once again with the series of staccato clicks and thumping that passed for music in the empty tank. Glint flitted out of Crow's hood and scanned the contents of the cup. "It certainly isn't good for you," he said, "but this much won't kill you. What does it taste like?" Crow took another sip. I'd say engine coolant, paraffin, and a kind of smoky chalk at the end. He stood, smiled, and raised his cup to the captain. "It's terrible!" he shouted over the noise of the bar. "Crow!" the captain barked back, his harsh voice unused to human speech. He pounded a fist against the spider insignia on his own chest piece before returning to his drink. "Surprised you knew my name," Crow said to Glint as he sat back down. "Getting on my good side won't get him on spiders, but at least I get free drinks." "Word about your heroics on the moon traveled quickly," Glint said. "I would have killed the High Celebrant if Osiris hadn't gotten in the way," Crow grumbled. "Then we'd see some real gratitude. Still," he swirled the foul drink in his cup. "I saved Osiris. The Osiris," he said. He seemed pleased with himself. That ought to count for something with those guardians in the city. "Is he one of their leaders?" "No," said Glint. "Osiris's relationship with the Vanguard appears to be complicated." "Why doesn't that surprise me?" sighed Crow. "What about that Guardian? Are they anyone important?" Glint thought for a moment. The Guardian hadn't said anything yet, but if Crow was going to work alongside them, he would be one errant comment away from learning the truth, and from the worst possible person to tell him. "They have several notable achievements," Glint said carefully. "Well, that's something," nodded Crow. "And now they've both heard of Crow." "You've certainly taken to the name," Glint said. Despite the noise in the bar, he kept his voice soft. Crow shrugged. "I've been called worse." "You really have," Glint said. He was silent for a moment. "You never heard the things they said to me while I was reviving you." Crow saw the single scuffed panel of Glint's shell, bulging with wires, and looked away. He wiped his hands on the rough fabric of the cloak Spider had given him. They had suddenly become sweaty. "It's just a name," Crow said dismissively. "You told me before you'd had other names." Glint didn't move. He hung in the air above the table. "Not like this." Crow leaned forward. "I don't understand," he said. He gave Glint a gentle nudge. "Explain it to me, please." Glint tensed in the air, then acquiesced and hovered closer to Crow. His voice was soft and kind. "I never truly had a name," he said. "There were things people called me, but you named me. So when I hear Glint, I think of you." Crow nodded, then realized what Glint was about to say next. His face twisted in anguish. "I didn't get to name you," Glint said. "Baron Spider did." "Oh, Glint," Crow blurted, and reached out with both hands as if he could smother the very idea inside the little ghost. Glint blinked rapidly in confusion. Crow cupped Glint in his hands and exhaled, long and slow. Glint, he said calmly. The ghost cocked his head. Spider picked my name, yes. It's probably a jab at who I used to be, some cruel little joke. Maybe I was eaten by crows. Glint started to speak, but Crow held up his hand. I know you can't tell me, but I don't think he meant it as some grand compliment. Crow looked down, his voice low. When you came along, I was dead. Before that, I think I was even worse. Then you found me, chose me, and early on, Crow took an agonizing sip of his drink and was grateful when it made his eyes water. It was hard. I wouldn't have made it through that without you, and I don't mean because you kept bringing me back to life. Crow spread his hands wide above the grimy table. To me, all of this place, this cloak, this terrible drink, is because of you. You're the reason I'm here, Glint. I don't need a name to remind me of that. Glint's eyes flashed rapidly as he processed the new information, then glowed steadily. I understand, he said. A crash shook the walls of the empty tank. The blast doors at the entrance tore loose from their housing, and a massive Cabal Centurion stormed into the bar, weapon drawn, severed Eliksni heads hanging from his waist as bounties. Where is the Crow? He bellowed. Right here, shouted Glint, and Crow stood, pushing his chair away. After the smoke cleared, the Eliksni captain clucked again and waved, making the universal gesture. Another drink for him, on me.
Wow, that was intense.
So, what I love about this story, and it's just kind of a shorter story. I mean, I know it's pretty long, but it's a shorter story compared to like the Immolant lore. Mm-hmm. But what I love about it is it has totally turned the tides on how on the previous character of Uldren, and turned him into Crow, and turned him into somebody that you're rooting for and want to be a part of, right? You want to protect him, you want to be a part of his story and storyline. You see that humanity in him, the way he's talking to his ghost and Glint, and it's touching.
Yeah, I think Richard in chat says it all when he says Crow for Hunter Vanguard.
I agree. I agree. Because this little bit of lore also showed that he is a total badass. You know, kind of like Cade, different personality, but definitely not afraid to use the gun.
Classic badass with a heart of gold.
A badass with a heart of gold.
Exactly. And doing a little research and reading some Reddit posts on Crow prior to his kind of demise in the Black Garden and so forth, he actually did have a pretty loyal following, and the people who worked under him when he was working in the Reef under Mara
Uldren Sov, you're saying?
Yeah, when he was Uldren, was
Prince Uldren.
He had a pretty loyal following. His crows were very loyal and said things that were very
and that's why he's
named
Crow today.
And that's why, he's named Crow, because that was like his kind of army were
his
called.
club.
His club.
I remember reading an interview with the voice actor who did Prince Uldren back in the day, and he alluded to his earliest voiceovers were for a character called the Crow, and this is going back to like before Destiny 1 was released. So the Crow is a character that was in the Destiny storyline before he sort of became Prince Uldren, before things got mixed up. Yeah.
This is yet another piece that shows that Destiny and Bungie is really trying to tell the story that they were initially
the original story. I think we're
in the
coming
very
full circle with the
Or at the
stranger,
very least, they're digging into old treasure troves for inspiration.
or tying it in,
Yeah.
Right.
like with the Exo Stranger, for
And
sure.
Europa.
Yeah, and Europa was part of the original storyline as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was mentioned
Absolutely.
in some leaks, right? Really interesting stuff.
So I love how Bungie just figured out a way to say, okay, we had this corrupted character kill Cade, who we all were very attached to, and somehow, like, we were all saying, there's no way, I'm just going to kill him, I'm going to kill him over and over again. And they actually allude to that even in this story. And
Yes.
I think there was another piece of lore, and I can't remember. Is that in the letter? Did you guys get that message in your postmaster?
Yes, I read that.
In that letter in the postmaster, where Osiris says, killing him over and over again isn't going to do you any good.
Especially
Right.
because it's pretty much a given that we were the ones to kill him in the first place.
Or was it
Right.
Petra?
Right.
Well, they have alluded to it being us. Like,
Okay.
Osiris in that
Yeah,
letter
they
says
have.
you already killed him once.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And going up and killing him over and over again is
We're
just,
at the very
it's-
least being held responsible for it.
Right.
So, they've done
There
a
is
good
a
job.
theory. Yeah, there's a theory that ghosts of the light look to revive beings who are willing to die for a cause, who had died in a sacrificial way.
Right.
And Uldren Sov, some could say, did fill that
Absolutely.
criteria.
Do you think we'll ever learn who we were? I wonder.
I doubt
Oh,
it.
that's an interesting question. I doubt it too, but that would be another interesting, because we see how evil we're making Clovis Bray out to be, and the whole exo experiments with erasing memories to make super
Right.
soldiers. But is the
Right.
Traveler not doing the same thing?
Traveler's doing the same thing.
All right, they're definitely trying to draw a parallel.
It's going to come up.
There's only one person who
Yeah.
knows who we once were, and that is Peter Dinklage. For sure.
And do the ghosts, when they scan you, know who you were before, and they just have like the Traveler's Oath and don't tell you?
The Traveler's
Glint
Oath.
sure-
Oh, that's
So-
genius.
I mean, even
Yeah, I
in
wonder if
this
that's a
piece of
thing.
lore, it's definitely alluded that he knows.
But
Well,
that's
but
only
because
because
everybody
Uldren Sov was
knows.
so infamous.
That's a different case,
you know?
because everyone.
Right.
Oh, sorry, Gideon.
Right.
Yeah, I was just
Fun
saying
one.
it's because Uldren Sov was so infamous.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But
Yeah, I think
I'm
that
wondering-
any ghost would have known who Uldren Sov, the infamous Uldren Sov, was.
Right. So when ghosts go around and they're scanning, when they scan you, do they know what your past is, or do they just have this sense?
That's the question
of
I just asked.
heroics. I know. I'm just stating it in a different
I
way.
think
to say,
I think
do
it's
they know?
all. I think it's all.
Do
a
they know what our
potential thing.
past is, or do they just know that we have a certain characteristic
Yeah. That,
I think
that
it's
was
certain
what I was asking.
that makes us?
I
Yeah.
think
makes
it
us
would
worthy
probably
of
be
being a
vague
ghost?
characteristic.
I'm going to say
yeah.
it's the past.
I
I
think-
don't think they know who.
I think
we
there is
were.
some lore on that subject of how they choose, if I recall. Probably hearing it from, Focus Fire Chat or one of those podcasts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The lore is very expansive, so it's hard to keep track of every detail.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you, Sally Bug, for bringing that piece to us. Are we ready for our final segment today?
I
Absolutely.
think so.
do
All
it.
right. Those of you who follow the Paracasual Destiny podcast will know our final segment involves Destiny Soundcheck. And today's soundcheck was inspired by another podcast that we know and love. And that is Ebontis and Lord Cognito's famous Last Word podcast that they do. And their most recent episode, I believe it was episode 128, featured none other than the great and mighty Skye Lewin, who is, I'm going to go out on a limb and say, second in command, maybe, second only to Michael Salvatore. Maybe they're equals by now in the world of Destiny soundtrack and sound creation. He is, this comes from lynda.com. Skye Lewin's Emmy-nominated work appears in video games, TV, and films such as Fargo and Entourage. Has anybody here seen Entourage?
No.
No? It's the HBO series? I have not seen it because I don't have HBO. But he is
what about Richard O'Neill?
Richard O'Neill, I wonder if he's seen Entourage. He
I don't think he has HBO.
No, he doesn't.
I have HBO, but I choose
But he might
not
have
to
it on
watch
DVD because he's got a
doesn't
vast
have
DVD.
superheroes in it, so I doubt it.
Oh, come on now. Come now. We're near the holidays. We have to be nice. He is a... back to Skye Lewin. He's a composer, songwriter, producer, instrumentalist, music editor, and co-founder of the record label and music production company Sound Chemistry. His work appears in video games, television shows, and films such as Destiny, Fargo, Banshee, CSI Miami, and Entourage. He's received 3 Golden Reel Awards and 4 Primetime Emmy nominations. I know that at least Lord Cognito from the Last Word podcast has consistently lobbied for Bungie to win a video game sound award, and it's my understanding they've been nominated but haven't really taken the trophy away yet, which is really surprising because I feel they deserve it.
I think if there were, more for films, there's a ton of different awards to be shelled out. For video games, there's really only a couple organizations who are handing out these awards, so it's a little limited right now.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'd like to...
But getting bigger every time.
Sure.
Yes, and I agree that they are more than deserving.
Absolutely. So I'm going to play a little bit of the interview in which Skye talks about the 2 different modes of music composition for Destiny 2 and video games in general. But there's what he describes as the Mario theme parts where it's the actual main campaign music that's driving a specific activity, and then the sort of background patrol geographic location background music and the transitions between the two. Let's have a listen.
Well, I mean, there is an aspect of that, like the activity, the campaign activities have more of that Mario Brothers sort of feel where it is a start to finish thing, but there can be hybrids where it's a little bit of free roam in moments, or you hit a certain spot and you could go off and get sidetracked doing something else and then come back to your goal. And being able to support all that is kind of part of that dynamic nature of games that I was talking about. But yeah, I guess without getting too into the details that I shouldn't talk about, I think that,
we don't want to get you in trouble.
Yeah, I was like only safe stuff. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. There's music.
Good answer.
Fair enough.
For real though, it's each destination we'll score with what we will call a palette internally. We'll say, okay, this destination needs to convey these things. We want to make sure these emotions and this feel is in the score or comes across to the player. And so the score is built with that in mind for a destination. But then there are activities that happen in the destination that may deviate from that. And so we have to plan for those things and score those things. And then getting from one to the other in a musical way that transitions and doesn't sound bad is part of it. And I guess the best way to put it is there are kind of at least two different approaches to how we would play music. And one of them is you're out in the world, you're doing, something in free roam. And the other is it's a, campaign, and it's a very linear in a non-linear way activity, and so within those two we have several ways of approaching it, and probably won't get into that in too much detail, but hopefully that answers your question at least.
That's fine. Actually, you actually answered about two parts of the question, two different questions I was going to ask you, which is cool. Which one was, hearing you, Michael, and the team always reference like the Destiny gravy.
Okay, so I'm going to encourage everybody to listen to the podcast. It's episode 128 of The Last Word, and we'll link it in the description. Because he continues on, and he's at the beginning because he has to leave, so it's at the front end of the podcast, and I don't know, I think he's only there for like the first half hour of it. And what he was talking about just now, I know you guys can't hear it, is the free roam ambient playlist that they compose for versus what he called a script call, that when you get near something or you get engaged in a specific activity, they've scored music specifically for that, and how the timing of it works. And just in general, composing music for video games is very non-linear at times, and it's tough to sometimes. You have to have appropriate transitions, and even times where there is no soundtrack too. So
once again, it just a little bird's eye peek at how complicated video games actually are. You almost take it for granted when you're just driving in your Sparrow through an environment, and then a public event starts and the music just changes and you don't realize it really, but it happens and it gets you engaged. Like, to have like that music is part of the engaging experience, and it happens organically, and they do an amazing job at it.
Yeah.
Another aspect of that is when they make the decisions to cut the music altogether.
Mm-hmm.
When I was playing a story mission and my daughter commented on it, she was like, "Oh, it's so creepy how it just went silent all of a sudden."
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. Knowing when to play and when not to play something is
the music
is
for
key.
these missions have been so amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, these guys are heroes of mine every time I turn. And towards the end of the season, when I've gotten a good dose of the soundtrack, and if I'm doing something routine, I will turn the music down and put on a Spotify playlist. But I'm still Beyond Light. I don't know if I'm going to be able to bring myself to doing that, because I'm enjoying the soundtrack. I'm enjoying the soundtrack so much.
Not for a while.
Yeah, it takes a while for me before I do
not
that.
For a while. I remember feeling that when Forsaken first came out as well, and Funnybone, you did the same thing, like just like that telltale when you go down to the Tangle Shore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and just it invokes an emotion. They just do such a great job to have the music give that emotional response to the area that you're in.
And Sally Bug, you were referring to the complexity involved in developing a video game. It's amazing to me that how we have these different forms of media now, like streaming, where you can have a one-person production company that does everything, does all their music, transitions, titles, artwork, and they're live streamers. And then I know when the live streamers get larger, they take on a team. I mean, like a Dr. Disrespect, that's a whole team. Or, Ninja, that's a whole team of people. That's a corporation at that point. But for these smaller streamers, they're one-person production companies. They get all the credit. They put their PC together to stream with. You know what I mean? They learn everything. They're a jack of all trades. That's such an amazing thing to me. And then if you beat a video game that has a story campaign and get to the credits at the end, the Assassin's Creed Black Flag, Assassin's Creed 3 credits went on for about 10 minutes. And of course, I know they're listing all the sort of production houses that they contract out to, but they're part of the video game. They're part of the making of the video game, and they count. And the number of people involved, it eclipses the credits we would see as kids at the end of a movie, right?
Right.
It's amazing how you have these two extremes of media: the individual streamer, one-person production company or content provider, and then these AAA video games that come out, or even independent video games have a lot of personnel these days. It's just amazing to me.
Yeah,
it's amazing. Well, that wraps up our sound check for this week, and I think all of us are aching to get out into the world of both the real world and the Destiny world today to see what's happening with the raid race. So I think we're about ready to sign off here.
Are we going to talk about what we've been consuming outside of Destiny?
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah. Has anybody been consuming media or books or television or content that's outside of the realm of Destiny lately?
I recently did a rewatch of Rilakuma and Karu on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
It's a stop-go animation from Japan. And it's very cute.
Very
little 12-minute episodes.
Oh, neat.
Highly recommend.
Very peaceful.
Oh, I might have to check that out. Sounds intriguing.
It's just adorable. It's very, very cute. And also just well done.
Nice.
Can you say the name one more time?
Rilakuma and Karu.
I'll put it in the chat.
Yeah, put it in the chat so we can link to it. I got hooked on a Netflix sort of crime series. It's a documentary in the genre of gosh, I can't remember the name of the one that came out about the guy who was innocent. He was sent to prison for I think he's still in prison, but he was initially sent to prison and then released because they found out he was innocent of the crime, and then he was put back in jail. Something murderer, something to do with
Making of a Murderer.
Making of a Murderer. So it's the latest in that genre, and what got me interested in it was it took place in Boston, which we're about an hour north of Boston here. So it was really interesting. It's called Trial 4, and it's on Netflix, and it's centered around Sean Ellis, who was accused of murdering a cop back in 1993. And it's put together really well. The people in it are really genuine, nice people, and his lawyer is one of the most extraordinary characters you will see on Netflix these days. So, yeah, I highly recommend it. Trial 4. Check it out. Yeah, good. That's what I did this past week. I kind of binged that during the evening hours.
Funnybone, have you been doing anything outside of Destiny, media-wise?
Changing diapers.
Been changing diapers, lots of poopy diapers.
All right.
No, I'll keep it succinct. There's usually a lot of stuff. I'm gonna springboard off of Romance Girl's Japanese theme, and I've been listening to this album by Hiroshi Suzuki, and it's Cat. It's a Japanese jazz album from the 70s. And normally I'm not into jazz. I've tried, getting into like Miles Davis and Herbie Hancock, but it never really spoke to me. But there's something about this album that I find infectious. Hiroshi Suzuki is a trombone player, and I think there's something unique about that. And the melodies on it are just catchy. I love it.
It's funny.
Can't recommend it enough.
I'm glad you brought it up because you sent us that link and we listened to it on the car ride home yesterday. It was really great.
We absolutely did.
We loved it. And I've said the exact same thing to Sally Bug that you just said, I'm not normally into that kind of jazz, but there's something about it that's...
There's something about it.
Jazz and catchy melody don't usually go together.
No,
so
and there's something
that.
different. It's definitely in the tradition of American jazz music, but it's something different about it. It's got just a little bit of added popness to it, or like you said,
J-pop.
Definitely like a
catchy
little bit
tunes.
Of that, right, like the 60s, 70s, like Western pop influence into the jazz.
Yeah, for sure. So I will link to that as well.
That's Hiroshi Suzuki, Cat.
And the name of the record is Cat. Yeah, I got it. Well, I think it's that time of the morning where people like me and people like you stall while they fish around on the OBS panel to find the right button to click. There we go. And the right outro to play. So as we say every week, this is the Paracasual Destiny podcast. This has been episode 19. You can look for us on Twitter at ParacasualP. We're on the YouTube channel here where we broadcast every Saturday morning around 11 Eastern Time. Consider commenting, sending us some feedback, like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff. We'd love to hear from you. So long from Romance Girl, Sally Bug, Funnybone, and last but not least, the Green Stago. Have a great weekend, everybody, and
shout out to Richard O'Neill.
And Richard O'Neill, he's the best. He's our favorite now. Bye, everybody.
Bye.